5 more minutes to go. Hello, everyone. Can anyone hear me? Speakers. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Let's just give a few minutes to wait for other people. I will start. Please share with your friends. We still have room for more. You can share the links with your friends and ask them to join.
I'm very tired. I'd like to be getting home now.
Don't worry, you can go home at now. And don't forget to wash your clothes because they're beginning to stink.
Bye.
Oh, God. So you're absolutely even signed checks as if she were signing autographs. Had a little sign.
Would you come shopping with me tomorrow? I need to go getting clothes. Yeah?
I'd like to take you meet Margot.
Okay, good afternoon once again. We welcome everyone to this session on mastering our fears. This is 401. I'm just been like, let's just give people a few minutes to come on board. But if not, we will start. I can see some people's network, they come in and they leave. Just give like 2 more minutes. We'll start at 4:03. Thank you so much for coming once again. Okay. Okay, I think we can start now. So how is everyone doing? How are we doing with the lockdown and coronavirus and all that is going on out there? Let me get some feedback. Please unmute and give us some feedback.
We're doing great, given the circumstances.
That's good to
God
hear.
is keeping us.
Yes, so we're all keeping strong. Okay, so let's just dive in and discuss what we are here for. A few rules just to help us to minimize the noise and the distraction. Please keep your microphone on mute, except when you need to talk. By the time we open it up, because this session will be more of discussions. If you see on our advert, we have a guest who is a clinical psychologist, Ifeoma Ifechelobi, and she has joined us this afternoon. She's here to help us distill all the issues around fear and all the anxieties that are going around in this season, and to talk us through how we'll be able to deal with it. So basically what I'm going to do in the next few minutes is to sort of provide an overview on fear and some of the issues related to fear and some of the things that we can do to deal with fear. And then we open it up because if you see on our advert, this is like a repeat of what we did last week. We had so many people last week and people were asking, oh, I missed it, I'd like to attend. And we decided to do this session again to give that opportunity to everyone that have missed it. So in the next 10-15 minutes, I will quickly give us an overview and then we can open it up for discussion. More than anything is that we do not want anyone after this session to still struggle with fear. We believe that fear is not of God. Fear is not, exaggerated fear. I know that fear is a normal emotion, but when fear becomes exaggerated, it causes a lot of stress, a lot of havoc with our health, with our concentration. And that is not good because it doesn't help us to be productive. And we understand what is going on right now. And I mean, the global pandemic that we're facing, it's enough to cause any normal human being stress. There's a whole lot associated with it, from the health issue to economic issue to, social issues. You're not able to go out and meet your friends as much, or your family. Thank God for internet, but still there's something about making that contact. So there's a whole lot associated with this season that could cause us some level of, stress, some level of fear, some level of anxiety. But the essence of this is that at the end, you will be able to understand how to manage some of these fears and how to be able to live above, this season. And we're hoping that, not just hoping and praying, we know that at the end, all of us, we're going to come out on the other side stronger than we entered, this season. So very quickly, I want to discuss what are the signs of fear. How do we know the fear that I'm talking about? When fear that becomes exaggerated. All of us, it's normal for humans for us to be afraid. It's a good emotion. It helps us to avert danger. It helps us to be able to deal with certain issues that we perceive, as dangerous or some sort of threat to our well-being. But when you allow fear to linger and it begins to dominate, it causes some of these signs we're talking about. So when you see yourself, you're becoming agitated, you're very anxious, you're worried. I know someone who said, palpitation, I'm having palpitations, I can no longer sleep. I'm just afraid I could get this virus. You're irritable. You begin to have obsessive thoughts, thoughts that you can't control anymore. Like you're no longer productive. This thought just keeps going. It's like a radio on your head. It keeps going. You're getting this virus. You're losing your job. You're losing your job. You're losing your job. You won't be able to come out. When it begins to go that route, then you need to hear what we're talking about today. So very quickly, we say that fear is an emotion, like I mentioned earlier. It's an unpleasant feeling, and it could be triggered by perceived danger or threat. When fear becomes exaggerated, the Bible made us to understand that there's a spirit of fear, is a torment. Is a torment. And then again, we say that fear is a mental state because it has to do with your thoughts. You cannot have feelings of anxiety and fear without your thoughts. Our thought controls, a huge part of our emotion. So fear is a mental state. Anxiety is a mental state, and it has a lot to do with our thoughts. And we've mentioned it's destructive. There are just one or two things I want us to take note in discussing what are the features of fear, is that we say that fear is an expression that is appearing real. Why? Because sometimes, or most of the times, the things we are afraid of might never really happen. Now, we're saying that there's a real threat, but the issue is that sometimes when we're afraid of that thing, you're taking paracetamol before even the headache comes. The headache hasn't come and you're already taking the paracetamol. And that's not the way it's supposed to be, because God has given us strength. You'll even be shocked that, God forbid, if anyone is faced with a particular kind of challenge, the strength comes for you to deal with it. But what fear does is it torments you ahead of the issue, But understanding that most of the time those thoughts begin to play, it's not real. It's not real. And then we say fear is a coward. You can deal with fear. People have dealt with fear. People have dealt with their anxiety. So when you begin to have an overwhelming feeling like I can't deal with this, it's not true. It's a lie. You can deal with it. And then the final thing we want to bring out is that fear rides on ignorance. Fear rides on ignorance. And any area that you have so much fear is an area you need to get some information. And we said that in dealing with fear, there's some of the key things, this is not exhaustive, but some of the key things that you can do to deal with your fear is, number one, you need to analyze the situation. You need to analyze the situation. What exactly am I afraid of? What exactly are those thoughts? You need to be able to pinpoint, what are you afraid of? Ask yourself the question, because until you're able to identify the source of the fear, you're not able to deal with it. So you need to be able to sit down and say, what is the issue? I want to know, what am I afraid of? Analyze the situation. Let's say somebody is afraid of getting the virus. Okay, how can I get this virus? What is the means of transmission? How can I avoid it? Why am I so afraid? Why am I so afraid? Have I been exposed? Is there something I did that is making me feel like, you know, this thing is going to catch up with me? Okay, you need to be able to ask that question. And in asking that question, you need to, what we call, get informed. Don't just ask, so you start by asking the question, and then you begin to get more information on the issues you're identifying. For instance, last week, somebody asked a question. She said, okay, I feel like I don't have control of all the people coming to my house. I can't trace their contacts because like my helps, they come from their houses to my home. How do I deal with that? You might be able to, you want to analyze, okay, how do I deal with this fear? I've identified the issue is that there are people coming to my house. So what can I do? What is the solution? What have other people done? Because we're not living in isolation. Nothing is new. Information is out there. Get information. Get information about the virus. Get information about how other economies are recovering. Get information of what other opportunities are available. You know, having that information empowers you. It just has a way of empowering you to deal with your fear because it kind of erases some of those fears. And then there are some that we say, by the time you get to a point, you know, you now know, okay, I've done all I need to do. Then I'm going to just trust. And that brings us to what we say, you need to focus your mind on what we call your own sphere of control or your sphere of influence. What do we mean by that? We have identified that fear is a mental state, which means it deals with our thoughts. When those thoughts of anxiety begins to come, that's when you begin to fidget. Now, how do you deal with that? You need to understand that you have a sphere of control. There are some things that are out of your control. For instance, somebody is wondering, how you can already imagine the level of recession. People will be begging on the street. You're already imagining it. Sitting down and imagining how much recession, how much people are going to be hungry, or maybe we might even have kwashiorkor return. You don't have control. You don't have control. So the more you focus on that, the more you do yourself harm. So it's to sit down and say, what do I have control? Okay, there's going to be recession. What do I do to ensure that this recession does not affect me? Do I have money now? Can I save what I have and try to manage more? What can I do? Okay, maybe I should find a way to start selling food. You just think, what is it that is within my control? And you focus on it. How do I ensure that I boost my immunity, for instance, because we understand that the virus, you know, has a lot to do. If you're able to build your immunity, the chances of survival is high. So what do I need to do? Maybe I should take my vitamins. Maybe I should focus on eating my vegetables. Oh, I don't have enough money to buy the exotic vegetables. I have money to buy my ugu and my scent leaf. How do I do? So you focus your thought on what do you have control? I have control on who comes to my house. I do not, I mean, I'm not under any obligation to welcome certain visitors at this time. If there's any issue, please can we discuss it over the phone? If you're having a visitor, for instance, yesterday I had to get someone to pick something in my house. By the time I said, okay, you need to wash your hands and your legs outside and get a mask, he was looking at me. But I mean, that's my own level of control. So you focus, what do I have control on? And it just kind of helps you to focus your energy and you're not bothering about all the things that in most cases are not even your concern. And then we're saying, in also trying to focus your thoughts, there's what we call practice thankfulness. There's so much to be thankful about. Don't focus your mind on all the things that could go wrong. I remember when this whole virus thing started, coronavirus, people were panicking, oh, we need to shop. I mean, all of us, I had that feeling as well. I'm like, we need to just buy everything before, I don't know how the extent of this thing, and we were buying. But then how do you narrow your thoughts in a way that you can remain productive and do not allow the stress of this season take over your strength, your productivity, which is your mind, and these are the things that will help you stay stable and give you the strength to glide through the storm. So we say one of the key things you need to do again is to feed on the right content. Feed on the right content. Don't be the one every day. If you're already dealing with fear, I mean, when at some point you're dealing with fear, that's not the time you're checking every day how many people have died. Maybe after you have, you're able to master that fear, you can, I'm not saying don't check, but I'm saying that shouldn't be what you're checking every, how many people died in Italy today? How many people? No, you're dealing with something. Focus on the right content. And it's very clear, even in the scriptures, we are taught. The Bible says what? Cast every imagination. Focus on the right things. If anything is good, if anything is excellent, you have to practice it. And then let go of all the negative thoughts. Sometimes you might need to want to distract yourself. When those thoughts come, find something. Just, I like the way Ifeoma says this, I say, focus on the present. Just like now, the fan is blowing on my head. Oh my goodness, this air is so beautiful. Focus on your present. My children are laughing. I have my life. I have my children. That is something to be thankful for. People who died last year, they didn't have this opportunity. So you see, for us now, it's an opportunity because to them, they are gone. They didn't have the opportunity to experience what we're experiencing. At least we'll have stories to tell our grandchildren that we made it when there was this war. And then when there was this pandemic. If there's another challenge in the future, we have something, we have a reference point to say we scale through this and we can scale through another. So find something to be thankful for. Practice thankfulness. It does amazing things. So in fact, I do it now, as a matter of principle, that every day I will find one thing to be thankful for. One thing, I will sit down and think about it. And I thank God for it. And I'm just so grateful, sincerely grateful that I have that thing, for my use. Find something to be thankful. You'll be shocked how you would disperse all the negative thoughts, that has been bothering you. And then we say, your faith. In fact, let me spend a few minutes here. You see, our faith is the greatest antidote to fear. Your faith in God is the greatest antidote to fear. Because the Bible is full of promises upon promises that God is with us. He will deliver us. And I'm telling you sincerely, because, when I talk to people, I say the truth, why I discuss the issue of fear. Yes, I'm a psychologist by training as well. I'm not practicing, but personally, I've had a lot of battles with fear. So I'm not telling you what I have not experienced. I'm sure for some of us, we've not even experienced that level of fear. Maybe you've gone through something in your life that, so I've experienced fear. And I know that your faith in God is the greatest antidote to fear. This is a season to pray. If you've not been praying, spend time praying. It will do you a lot of good. Instead of sitting down and worrying about all the things spend time praying. God still answers prayers. Spend time on the word of God. Meditate, which is like, for me, that is like major. A lot of us, there's a lot of noise. We pray, we study, but we don't meditate. You need to think through. You need to think through on God's word. You need to think through. That thinking through, that meditation is a process that you let those things, those positive messages you're hearing distill through your being. And then you're able to stand all those emotions. It even has a way of just taking off those emotions that you are afraid of. Okay, I don't know if maybe we have people here who are not Christians, but I also know that for every faith is key. Faith is key. I'm talking because I understand Christianity. But if you're not a Christian, faith is key. Faith in God is key at this season. And that is because all of those things that are not within our control is under the control of God. And having a place in your life where you say, I give it up to God, and I know I can trust God on this matter, and I know that God's word works, it will keep you sailing. No matter the challenge, no matter what comes, you will sail. Okay, so and then, you know, in rounding up, I'm trying to check my time because this is not supposed to be for me to just talk, but for all of us to talk, is that there are things we can also do in this season. There are so many opportunities in this season that we can harness. For some of us who are not going to work, you know, I know that there are also financial challenges and all that, but this is also time to reinvent ourselves. This is also time to pay little attention to reading, to do some certain things you've not done before. Play with your kids, you know, be grateful for things like that. Okay, so they said that a necessity is the mother of invention. It's not all woes. I know that there's a whole lot of woes going out there, but it's not all woes. We have to find a way to find the good in the midst of all of these challenges. And at this point, I want to open it up, Ifeoma, please, so that we can discuss real challenges. You know, maybe your own issue have not been touched, or maybe the way you think, you perceive your own, you have some questions. You know, please, at this point, we would like everyone to please participate. Let's hear your own experience and ask your questions. And like I said, Dr. Ife-Chelobi is here to respond. Okay, I have Toby raising his hand. Please, Toby, you can shoot. You can go on ahead. Hello, Toby, can you hear me? And if you're having network challenges, you can also send us a message. You can share a text. You can, you know, you can share a text and we'll respond to that. So please, nobody should be denied the opportunity to. Okay, I'm opening up the chat room. Where is Toby? Let me see. Are you unmuted? Okay, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you, Toby, please. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, so while we wait for Toby, maybe he wants or she wants to share by text. Can we have other people, you have a question, you know, or an experience you want to share and you want Dr. Ife-Chelobi to chip in on that? Please, this is the time. I think Toby's having issues with her connection. I can see her video, but I can't hear. Is anyone hearing me? At this stage, it looks as if nobody's hearing me. Am I cut off? Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
oh,
okay.
Oh, thank you. Okay, please, do we have questions?
I dropped a comment on the chat box. The Dr. Ifeoma can respond to that.
Oh, okay, thank you. I haven't seen your comment. Did you share to everyone or to Ifeoma alone? Because I can't see it. Ifeoma, do you have her question? I can't see her question.
I don't have a question yet.
Did you drop it on the chat?
Even privately, there's no question here.
Okay, yes, I just got a message from, what is the difference between fear and being nervous? The question is, what is the difference between fear and being nervous?
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say that in mental health, fear is not adjudged a disorder or a problem even. We talk about anxiety in profiling cases. And when you talk about anxiety, you find that as part of the prognosis in anxiety, you would have fear, you would have panic, you would have nervousness, you would have worry. So what is nervousness? Nervousness comes with a physiological display of what we call panic. So when you're nervous, you would probably notice that you have palpitations, you have, some people hyperventilate, you have increased heart rate. That's just what it means to be nervous. It means that, you know, you're apprehensive of what might happen, or, you know, an attached emotion on something that has happened in the past. While fear, like I said last week, fear is a perceived emotion as regards to, sorry, let me try to find something I wrote about fear. I'd like to define it as it is exactly. I can't seem to find the okay. I can't seem to find where I had written something on fear, but basically fear is kind of an anticipation, a perception of something being wrong around you. And usually we would say that fear can either be real or imagined. It's just a sort of perception, just like every other emotion is a perception. It's a perception of an unpleasant emotion that tells you that something is wrong. Basically, that's what fear is. So I don't know if that answers your question. And if it does, I'd like to say a few more about fear. Now, in my experiences as a practitioner, I think that a lot of times the things that trigger fear would generally be our fantasies about the future. And when I say fantasy is usually not a positive expression or a positive attitude. Fantasy can also be a negative expression or attitude, and grief about something that didn't happen the way we expected it to happen. Again, it could be that things are not happening the way you anticipated, or there were things you expected to happen and they are not happening. Another thing that can trigger fear could be that you're focusing on things that you really can't help. You can't help, like you were saying earlier, you can't help the number of people who are going to die as a result of the pandemic. You can't help some anticipatory things that might happen in the future. Nobody can help when they would die. Nobody can help if they would even contract the virus. But there are things we can do to enhance our not contracting the virus. And like she has said earlier, the important thing is to focus on those things instead of focusing on the things that you can't help. So that, and thinking about tomorrow, oh, I plan to start a new business, oh, I plan to start a school. Now, children are not even going to school. So how am I going to start the school? These are things in your future that, at the present, you probably cannot help. And so if you keep, hugging too closely some of those things, and especially as you can't, exactly help them, or even when you can help them, like I was saying last week, this is the beginning of a new decade and the beginning of a new year. We're almost at the middle of this year, but a lot of us, the year was basically cut off from the end of February. And so we had plans. Some of these things were already strategically laid down. And so you're sitting right here and thinking, oh, I'm supposed to have gone off to the UK for a master's degree or a PhD, and look at me, I don't know when the airspace is going to open. I don't know when, you know, flights are going to be let into the UK. I don't even know when the embassies are opening for me to do my student visa or something. So all of those things are in the future, and you can't exactly lay hold on them, and you're fantasizing about them. You're fantasizing about this beautiful business that you have in plan. Or you're just worried about, oh, my life is like this, it's completely messed up because I took this step. If I had known, I wouldn't have chosen the course I read. If I had known, I would have worked hard better. I would have worked better on my sciences and ended up a medical doctor. Just look at me now. You know, nobody's hiring the skills from the job, from the profession I earned a degree in. These are things in the past. Grieving over them will not solve the problems. They will only exacerbate your fears. So these are some of the things that could, you know, make us susceptible to fear. Is there something else I
wanted to just also, in trying to bring it home. So what if, so let's say for someone who, there are real dangers right now. I have so many people who have lost their job. Maybe someone is in the hospitality space, and there's nothing, like an event manager, for instance, there are no events. Right now, no money. They don't have enough money to keep up, to provide enough for the children. Like, this is real danger. This is, I mean, every normal human being facing such challenge might be stressed, you know, might worry about it. How can we deal with these emotions in the midst of the challenge? Or maybe someone here, you have a family member who, or you know someone who is in isolation. So this person has contracted the virus. How do you deal with those feelings when you're facing real danger?
All right, I went out this morning to run, and in the midst of my run, I got to a point and something was, you know, very strongly laid in my spirit. And that was, for every situation in which you find yourself, be thankful. This is not about finding something to be thankful about, but being thankful for that specific situation. That's to say, oh, I just lost my leg. And then I am thankful specifically because I lost my leg. I will come to that, but let me use this to answer your question. So someone is in a real situation, not an imagined fear, but a real fear. I always say, when you're experiencing any emotion, whether it is happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust, grief, boredom, whatever it is, the first step in handling emotions is to own that emotion. Now, sometimes when we're going through an emotional experience, we might not even at the point know the name of the emotion we're dealing with. It's something very common among Nigerians, which I'm really fascinated about. A Nigerian will tell you, I'm feeling one kind. I don't even know how I'm feeling. Now, this is owning the fact that you're having an unpleasant feeling. You don't know the name of this feeling. You don't know what is causing it. Sometimes it might even be intuition. Nothing within your immediate environment is happening. Everything is very normal, but you realize and recognize that you're feeling one kind. That already is owning your emotion. Now, after owning your emotion, the second thing to do is to name the emotion. Now, whether it is easy for you at that point to name that emotion or not, does not matter. If you try to name the emotion and you can't exactly pick out, am I sad? Am I just apprehensive? Am I anxious? You can't exactly put your fingers to it. Pick up a pen and paper. I'm always one to advise tracking. Whether you're trying to track the behavior of your child or a problem in your family, a problem in your career, a problem in your emotion, whatever you're trying to track, pick a pen and paper. and track seriously. So you begin to ask yourself, is there really a reason why I'm feeling one kind? This one kind that I'm feeling, are there manifestations I can put my fingers on? Is my breathing still normal? Am I panicking? Am I thinking about anything at all? You know, is there something that happened today that is worrisome? Is there something that happened yesterday? Did someone say something to me? Blah, blah, blah. By the time you ask yourself 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 questions, you'd be able to put a hold on what is triggering this feeling of one kindness. Now, after you have tracked what is, you know, triggering this feeling of one kindness, it's easier for you to name that emotion. And so, you know, it's now like, okay, so yes, I'm in a pandemic. I'm not going to work. My boss has written me to say I won't be paid because the organization is not earning. The government has shut down our business. We're not part of the essential. And so there's no money. So I have families to feed. I have, you know, a lot of, you know, financial responsibilities out there. And there's no longer any job out there. And this is me. The next thing to ask yourself is, what do I have capacity for? Everyone has something of value that they can give in exchange for money. The truth is, this thing of value that you have might not be something that is easily or immediately sellable, but might be sellable tomorrow. For today, what can I do to feed my family? Because my major concern right now is that the children do not have food to eat. So how do I feed the family right now? If there is nothing around you that you can exchange for value, that is now you doing your capacity analysis. What do I have capacity for right now that I can exchange for money? Now, if that thing that you have capacity for cannot sell in the immediate, you also have what is called goodwill. Goodwill in the social space.
Capital.
Sorry?
No, I said, yeah, your social capital.
Yes, goodwill in the social space is capital, is money. So there are people who love you, your family, your friends, someone out there. You can make a list of, because a lot of times, even when we are launching a new project or you're launching a new product, the first thing you even do is to write down, make a list of people who are possibly going to buy from you. And I tell you something, people a lot of times do not even buy into value for value. People many times buy into emotional value. I worked in the banking industry, you know, earlier on in my career. And I know that there are so many bank accounts that are opened on the basis of, help me, oh, they will sack me if you don't open this account. So this person already has 5 different accounts in 10 different banks. But because you come to her office or his office every day crying that, Ashe, you want them to sack me, you want me to go back to my children helpless without food, you must open this account. Oh, she ends up opening that account. Now, did he open that account because he needed to open an account with your bank? Hell no. He opened that account because you are his sister, his friend, his acquaintance, whatever, and he couldn't stand you being out there and not having food for your children. So he opened the account and split his money all the more. So make a list of all these people and start to call. Someone who is hungry, does not have any pride.
We're getting all of that calls across from our family members and friends. I mean, this is also a good time to support. But like I said, as much as possible, we would like people to contribute so that we can deal with real issues that you're struggling with. From what Dr. Ifechelobi just said, I think one key thing I got from that is what is called thinking through. Sometimes we are dealing with this fear and this anxiety, and you'll just be like, the thing is just going on through your head. Oh, I'm feeling somehow, this coronavirus nonsense, this, da, da, da. Sometimes people don't get to that point to say, do you know, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to sit down and know what exactly is this issue and how do I deal with it? And that's how it begins to escalate, because sometimes people don't get to that point where they say, do you know what exactly is this issue? Why am I feeling like this? I don't want to feel like this, and I'm going to take control of how I feel. And the process of taking control, like she said, is being able to identify what the issue is and draw a map or map out your solution. And you see that in most cases, the fear issue is resolved. Somebody who is afraid of, I might be losing my job. What can I do now? What can I do now? If I have a job, what should I do? How can I support my boss? What extra, reading or research can I do to bring a new idea on board? So there's just something that we can do if we're able to identify what the issue is. But most important, because we have like a few more minutes to go, we would want people to please ask your questions, share your own fears with us. And, so that we're addressing, I don't want it to sound like we're just, people have different stresses at this time. You have things that are peculiar to you. And it is important to us that, we're able to address as much as possible each individual's need, as it is. So we'd like to hear from you. Please, can we, share our experience or the fears that we've been dealing with, and if there are questions, this is a good time to share. Do we have anybody who wants to say something? Because sincerely, we're dealing with a real challenge. It's important that we draw down to specifics. How do I deal with this particular challenge? How do I deal with this particular challenge?
Sorry, Uju, while we're waiting for questions, I'd like to say, just very little about deconstructing your fears. Now, after you have drawn a map and, done all the sorting and analysis and strategizing, the reality is that as part of fear, you could actually, because fears are, emotional, and then they are supported by thoughts. Now, you could do all of these things, so you might just not even be able to do them because you have a barrage of thoughts in your head. Last week, I took in two cases of depression. And I know that one of the things we haven't been able to do within this week is to get the two people to stabilize enough to think through their issues. So that isn't yet possible for them. You might be here, or someone who is in this situation. You have this morbid fear and you're not able to do anything. It has incapacitated you. You have to realize that on the inside of you are so many entities. There could be one who is supporting you. There could be another who is your enemy. And so you have these thoughts coming in, not even stopping at any point. It's just there. You're not able to do anything. Sit down and address each thought, each line of thought, because you would notice that there would be a line coming from a specific experience you have had and another one coming from a different experience you have had. It could be, one might be coming from your experience as a person of faith. So it might be something, good and positive. And one is coming from your line of failures and all that. So they would become incapacitating thoughts. Sit down like you're having a meeting with these two people or three people and argue your case strongly. So this one tells you, so what if you die? You could actually die because it gives you plenty reasons why you're going to die. Sit down and also tell it, no, I'm not going to die, and give it 20. If it gave you 20 reasons why you're going to die, give it 30 reasons why you're not going to die. This could take quite a number of days sometimes to do, and it's a full-time job. You will not be able to do anything or go anywhere. But it's actually a huge battle to win.
Thank you so much for that. So when your fear has gotten to that point when you're dealing with a whole lot of thoughts, is a time to sit down and discover what exactly is the truth. And be able to distill which ones are lies, because that's what it is, arguing with them. You're able to think through to say, does this thing even make sense? The person is saying, I can't sleep because I think I can have this virus. And she hasn't gone out. She hasn't left her house, but she's not able to sleep because she thinks she will get the virus. How? But if you sit down and you're able to argue this case, you're able to even like seriously, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm walking out of this fear. Am I the one echoing? Okay, so sometimes that's what you need. Just calm down and think through. I will always say that if you get to a point where you can't deal with it, please seek for help. Because that level of fear could cause a lot of trouble. A lot of people have gone insane because of fear. So if you're at that point where you're struggling to deal with it, please seek for help. Don't be ashamed to seek for help. Sometimes it's just in talking with someone, maybe a professional or someone who has dealt with fear, or maybe it could be your pastor, your imam, who is more experienced and have seen, has had a lot of experiences in life. It could make a whole lot of difference. Okay, so do we still have more questions? It looks like everyone here, all of us here are all Baba, we're not having any fear issue. It's already all sorted. We've all sorted it through the slides and the presentations that we have made. Hello, you can also send a text. Okay, Lovina wants to say something.
It's possible that someone wants to talk, but they've forgotten that they are on mute. So maybe remind everybody to unmute before they talk.
Yes, please go on ahead and unmute if you need to talk. So Lovina, how are you dealing with your own fears?
Honestly, maybe at the beginning of Corona, I had a bit of fear, but my default self is usually not to be fearful. So like both of you had said, yourself and Ify, analyzing the situation and being at the moment, I always do that. So when I sense a bit of fear, I just consciously call myself back and tell myself, no. You can't allow yourself to stress. So I am hardly in such situations. But, I like to listen to these things. When these talks come up, I like to listen to them so that I can further strengthen myself. It's not as if I'm not human. I'm very, very human. These fears come. Like I was saying at the beginning, I was thinking of, what about my job? What about my job? And then I quickly told myself, well, if I even lose my job, then I have to find something to do. And then I started thinking about what are the things I could do in case I even lose my job. So why stress? I always say, why stress about something that has not happened? It might end up not happening. Then you will now put yourself in a situation where you have stressed out yourself for no just cause at all. So, I quickly tell myself that, and then I'm back in the moment. I had the fear of my own kids, like, what if I go out and then I come back with Corona and then I dash my children? I quickly tell myself, no. So let's talk about it. I got all of them together and then we discussed it so that all of us are on the same page about how to, be cautious and use all the precautions that we have been told about, so that we don't fall in the situation. Again, why stress when you have not encountered or engaged yourself in anything that could cause you to catch Corona? So at all times, not even with this Corona issue, anything at all. So I can't remember when one of you was talking I had this real life experience. Okay, I think it was Ify talking about when some of these things happen, and you now start thinking like you should be thankful about the situation, not just find something to be thankful about. One of my brother-in-laws that used to live with me called me a witch. You know, he actually called me, like spoke to me face to face. Not that he told somebody to tell them I'm a witch. He called me to tell me that God has revealed to him that I'm a witch. You know, at first it was like, really? Then I was laughing inside of me. And then I took it seriously, like, what if I'm a witch and I don't know? I now had to ask him, "What? Can I ask you a question?" He said, yes. I said, is it possible to be a witch and not know? He said, no, it's not possible. You will know. So I was like, okay, then I was happy now. When he finished talking, I went back to my room, locked my door, knelt down, and started praying. Like, why? I wasn't even angry with him, honestly. Like, because he was someone I was really very close to. And then for me to see him behaving like this, I thought, maybe something is wrong with him, because I know there's nothing wrong with me. Then again, maybe there's actually something wrong with me. What is that thing? So when I knelt down and I was praying, the first thing that came to my mind was, Lovina, your prayer life, you haven't been prayerful enough. So out of all of that experience I had, I just gave you a bit of what happened with that, my brother-in-law, but there were so many things that happened. This was the crux of it. And what I came out of it with was, you haven't been prayerful enough. So I was thankful for that situation, which brought me to the light of my situation that, Lovina, you need to pray more. And that was what I got out of it. And when I tell people, they're like, how can you be thinking about what you will gain out of a bad situation? But that was because in every situation, be it positive or negative, find a way to thank God and find what is good out of it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much. That was quite inspiring. You know, being deliberate and being thankful. You can never go wrong. Most of the time that we are worried, I mean, I've dealt with worry. All you're seeing is all the things that are not going well. Like, as if your mind is focused on all the things that are not going. If you step back a bit, you'll be shocked at all the things that are going well. And once we learn to be grateful and thankful, every other thing begins to change. It's as if something like a new veil is open, like a new light is open, and you're like, wow, I didn't see this. I didn't. And it just gets rid of all of the stress and all of the, you know, all the fears and all the wahala that comes with fear and anxiety. So being thankful, this period, let's be thankful. Let's be thankful. I've said it. In fact, I'm most grateful that I'm alive to witness coronavirus. My great-grandchildren will hear the story from my own mouth. You know, there's something to be grateful for. Do we have any other questions before we hear, you know, final words from Dr. Ifechelobi? Someone has a question, or we just have about 6 more minutes to go? Okay. I take it that we've learned 1 or 2 things at least. I'll just allow Dr. Ifechelobi to give us 1 or 2 words in 1 minute, and then we would wrap up.
All right, thank you so very much. What I'd like to leave with all of us this evening is, first of all, that fear is not the only emotion that a lot of us are struggling with, you know, over this pandemic. I doubt that I've had much fear, but I've had to grieve over, you know, a whole lot of things. I've had sadness, I've had periods of gratitude, I've had periods of happiness and all sorts. And whatever emotion you're going through, the thing about emotions is that they can come as a tide and can sweep you away. It's amazing that even something as beautiful as happiness can drag someone off the edge. And, you know, and they have real mental health issues, stark raving mad. You know, so whatever emotion you're going through and the tide is coming at you, forceful and all that. Like I said earlier, sometimes one of the simplest things that help to bring us back is staying in the moment. I wish I had a bit of time to teach a little bit about mindfulness and meditation. You could, you know, like Uju was saying, that there might be a promise in the scripture that comes to mind. God is that kind. When we're going through something, a word drops. You can stay on that word, ruminate over it, you know, get excited over it, hold it strongly to your heart. Or you can choose something in nature. There are two things in nature that I usually choose when I want to, you know, stay in the present and draw myself out of the tide of a boisterous emotion. One is just staying my mind on a mountain. Mountains are static. It's like they sit strongly in their place. The rains come, the harmattan come, the snow come, the wind comes, you know, waters, you know, come, and the mountain is sitting right there. Sometimes you can choose to focus on something as stoic as the mountain or any other thing, and just keep reassuring yourself that like this mountain, this tide will come and pass. This wind will come and pass. This situation will come and pass. Whatever it is will come and pass. And I'll be sitting stoically like the mountain. Sometimes it could be focusing on your breath. You're just thankful that you're breathing in and you're breathing out. It reminds you that you're alive. It reminds you that even when you cannot think through, you know, because we have said so much about thinking through, being strategic, analyzing your emotions and all whatnot, but there are times that you can't. Just choose something and stay on it and just be thankful. One day I heard the testimony of a woman who said one afternoon something happened to her. She couldn't blink her eyes. And then when she, obviously when it started, she didn't notice, but when she realized that she couldn't blink and the day was going, she couldn't blink. Her eyes were tearing up, were so painful, where she was almost running mad. She ran to the hospital. For more than 2 days, they were dealing with this issue. And she assured us that if you cannot blink in 1 minute, you can't imagine how much will happen to you, the headache, the pain, the whatever. And a lot of times when I'm going through stuff, I just stop, I just pause and I'm like, my eyes can blink. Wow. I just get excited over that. So staying in the present can actually pull you out of the tide of a boisterous, unpleasant emotion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ifeoma. We've learned a whole lot from you. Thank you everyone for coming. I just, in wrapping up, we should remember that this season would pass. It will definitely pass. And like we said earlier, this is a time to hold onto God's promises, because the truth is that we come to that point where we don't have control. There are sometimes you get to that point where you don't have control. You can't think. Someone who is in pain or who is struggling with their breathing does not have time to think. At that time, you can't think, but there is a hand that is big enough to hold us through it all. And, you know, in closing, I will tell everyone, I don't know about you, but you see this issue of meditation. If you don't know how to meditate, please, it is something, because a lot of us, especially for those of us who are Christians, we hear the word of God, we hear it, but it doesn't turn to anything in our lives. Because one, we don't believe in the authenticity of that word. because we're looking at everything happening around us. And then secondly, we don't spend time to take in those words and see how it applies to our everyday life. So this season more than ever, for instance, Psalm 91 said that those who abide in the secret place and those who are under the shadow of the Almighty, that no plague will come near their dwelling. That is a word to live on in this season. I don't care how long the plague lasts, it's not going to come in my dwelling. And then learn to speak it. Sometimes this thought just has a way of overtaking you. Say what you believe. The more you say it, suddenly you discover you've started believing it. I've been saying that I don't care how long this thing is going to last, but coronavirus will not come into my home. And the more I have said it, the more I've so believed it that for some reason I'm not even conscious sometimes that there's something going out there. I've just found something else, focus on other things to do because I have said it and I have said it and I have believed it. So more than ever, this is a time to strengthen your faith in God through meditation, through the study of the word, and through prayer. And we're sure because the Bible said that God cannot fail. So we are looking forward to seeing all of us at the other side, stronger, bigger, better, more, open, where we have innovated new things, at the end of all of this. So please, as we go back, let's take it seriously. God will not fail us in this season. Take your study of the word, take your prayers, take your meditation, and just keep your faith and stay strong and just keep focusing on the right things in this season. And then by the grace of God, it will all end in praise. Thank you very much for coming once again. It's been a beautiful afternoon, and we're so delighted to have you. We hope that you have learned one or two things to help you manage your fears in this season. And on that note, we say bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing, amazing time with you all. Thank you. You can leave the meeting room now if you want. If you want to spend some more time with us, that's okay. But you can leave now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Toby. I'm not sure we got to hear your question, but it's fine. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Blessing. Thank you, Kosi. Thank you, Mr. Patrick Apple. I think he's gone. Aisha. They're all gone. Okay, Toby's still here. Thank you. Thank you, Faith Anego, for coming. Thank you, Auntie Ezinea. I'm still saying Toby. I'm still saying Blessing. Okay, so we have done a recording of this. If you're interested, we can share. And that's why I'm not expressing all the pleasant.
I'm interested in the recording, baby.
Okay, please. That's noted.
Was that Kosi's voice?
Yes, yes.
Hi, Ezine.
Hey, hi. Thank God I was able to join before Ifeoma would have skinned me alive today.
And why did you come late?
Okay. Half bread is better than none. You've not heard that before? I actually was on a call. I was on a call, a very long call. So when I looked up, I saw the time. I had to quickly end it to come join.
Yeah, try.
Sorry, is Miss Toby still here? I can still
yes,
see.
She is.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
She is.
I don't know if she has left her phone or she's still listening to. Eh?
If you're gonna be recording this, and that means you have to edit out this part of our conversation.
Exactly.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stopping